Because qualifications count more than money.
Because my vote is earned, not bought.
Because grassroots power can stop big money.
Because Jamie has always been a progressive.
Because literally, Jamie Raskin wrote the book on campaign finance reform.
And Jamie's the only candidate who's done more than talk.
Because he's the only one who's actually written major progressive laws.
To pass the Green Maryland Act.
To ban military-style assault weapons in Maryland.
Ban the death penalty.
Pass equal pay for women.
Marriage equality for all.
Because no other candidate has that kind of record.
And it's not even close.
Because Jamie Raskin is one of the coolest, smartest, kindest, most passionate candidates I've ever seen.
Because my vote is not for sale.
And we need the kind of progressive that money can't buy.
Because Jamie Raskin represents us.
Is something fairly radical in American politics, and that is telling the truth. Sometimes when we talk about the truth, and sometimes when we treat people as intelligent human beings, it means that we have to discuss issues that are not necessarily pleasant. But we have got to deal with reality if we are going to go forward. And there are some realities that we just have to shove over the rug, that we have to address and that we have to resolve. Let me start off by giving you a few of them. Not pleasant, but true. Throughout our history, men and women have fought and died to defend American democracy. But American democracy today is under assault. In fact, right now, we have a corrupt campaign finance system that is undermining American democracy. Democracy is supposed to be about is one person, one vote. You disagree with me? That's fine. You want to vote against me? That's fine. What American democracy is not supposed to be about are super PACs and billionaires buying elections. This disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court. I want anybody in this room, anybody in America, who is interested in running for public office to be able to do so without having to beg wealthy people for campaign contributions. We need public funding of elections. Effort on the part of Republican governors all over the country. If these Republican governors don't have the guts to run in free and fair elections, if they think the only way they can win is denying people the right to vote, they better get out of politics and get on the job. of any major country on earth. Together we're going to change it. We're going to have one of the highest voter turnout rates. Like many other countries, if you are 18 years of age and you're a citizen of this country, you are registered to vote. End of discussion. But the truth is, there are many wealthy and powerful people who do not want you to vote. That we always have low voter turnouts and billionaires buy elections. If you see your friends and they say, oh, politics is all crap, I don't want to be involved, you tell them that if the Koch brothers and other billionaires are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on politics, maybe they know something that your friends should know. Democracy is not a spectator. Every person in this room is enormously powerful if you choose to recognize your power and exercise that power. Is that no president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can resolve the enormous crises facing this country alone. And the reason for that is that the powers that be, the people who control our economy and our political life, are so powerful in terms of Wall Street having endless supplies of money, corporate America, who would leave this country and shut down a factory if they can make $5 more by going to China. Wealthy campaign contributors who buy politicians. That is what we are up against. No president alone can address the issues and take them on by himself or herself. What we need in this country, what you are about, is a political revolution. Many of whom are working people who have given up on American democracy. They look at Washington and they say, who in Washington worries about my kids or my parents or my life? I'm not going to vote. And a lot of young people who have never been involved in the political process. What we need to do is bring our people together by the millions to demand that Congress in Washington start representing all of us, not just wealthy campaigners. This campaign is about ending a corrupt campaign finance system and restoring democracy in America, but it's also about something more. It's about addressing a rigged economy, an economy in which ordinary Americans are working longer hours for lower wages. Many of them are working 2 or 3 jobs, and yet almost all new income and wealth is going to the top 1%.
Make it small!
Ready for a radical idea? Together, we are going to create an economy that works for all Americans, not just the 1%. we have more people in jail than any other country on earth. Together, we are going to end that disgrace. We have an absurd approach toward education in this country. Everybody here knows that education and learning is an inherent part of what being a human being is about. Understands that in a competitive global economy, the United States needs the best educated workforce in the world. Is begging of you. Think outside of the box. Think outside of the status quo. Take a step back and say, wait a second, does this make sense? Don't be ashamed! Now here, let's look at this issue. Right now, in America, we have hundreds of thousands of bright, qualified young people who cannot get a higher education for one reason, and that is they lack the funding. We don't know how many great scientists or researchers or doctors or educators are in those people, who will not get a higher education. As a nation, it is absurd that we do not create a process to allow them to get the education they deserve. Then we have an equally absurd situation in that many people who leave college end up deeply, deeply in debt. Young people all over this country, people 30,000, 50, 100,000. Talk to a young doctor in Burlington, Vermont, $300,000 in debt. A dentist, $400,000 in debt. Talk to people who've been paying off their student debt for decades. Whoa! And this is thinking outside the box. If we believe that education is a good thing, if we want a best educated workforce in the world, why are we punishing millions of people for getting that education? It is nuts. It really is when you stop and think about it in terms of the future of this country. So I am criticized a lot because people say, well, you're thinking too big, you're too radical. I don't think so. So I believe two things. Number one, that in America in the year 2016, when we talk about public education, talking about first grade through 12th grade is no longer good enough. Yeah! 60 years ago, a high school degree was a pretty high prize for most people. Most people didn't get it. And if you had a high school degree, you were able to go out and get a pretty damn good job. Today, in many respects, a college degree is the equivalent of what a high school degree was 50 years ago. What our job now is, when we talk about public education, is to make sure that public colleges and universities now are tuition free. idea. It is not a radical idea. It already exists in many countries around the world. You go to Germany, you know what it costs to go to college in Germany?
Nothing!
You go to Scandinavia, you know what it costs to go to college?
Nothing!
I was at a meeting, funny story, I was at a meeting about a year ago in D.C. And I was saying, well, you know, in Scandinavia they have colleges that are free. And the kid jumps up and says, no, you're wrong, Senator. Why am I wrong? Well, I come from Finland. It's not free. They actually pay us to go to college. For the future of our country, I want you all to think about it. We need to tap all of the intellectual capabilities of every person in this country. We don't need to help people for getting a higher education. We don't need to saddle them with debt for decades. People pay 20-25% of their limited income year after year after year. They can't get a home, they can't get a car, they can't get married, they can't have kids. That is crazy stuff. Together we're gonna change that. This is what I'm talking about. When I say that we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free and blow up substantially student debt, people say that's a radical idea. It's an expensive idea. How are you going to pay for it? Well, let me tell you how we're going to pay for it. Number one, we're going to pay for it by imposing a speculation, a tax on Wall Street speculation. And illegal behavior of Wall Street drove this country into the worst economic downturn since the 1930s. And after destroying the economy, Wall Street went to Congress, and I was there, I heard, and they said, bail us out, please bail us out. And Congress bailed them out. That if Congress can bail out Wall Street, now it is time for Wall Street to help the middle class again. When we talk about what is going on in this country and what we can afford to do and what we cannot afford to do, it is important that we understand that in the last 30 years of this country, there has been a massive redistribution of wealth. All right, people don't know this. Now, when I talk about redistribution of wealth, my Republican friends get very nervous, you know. I start shaking. But what's gone on in the last 30 years is we've had redistribution of wealth, but it has gone in the wrong direction. What has happened is the middle class has shrunk. It has lost trillions of dollars, which have gone to the top 1/10 of 1%. In the last 30 years, the top 1/10 of 1% has doubled the percentage of wealth that it owns in America. So if you want to hear about radical concepts, that is pretty radical. Trillions of dollars going from working families to the very wealthiest families in this country. Well, I think it is not so radical to say we want our money back. Or we can't afford to make public colleges and universities tuition free. We can't afford to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure. I was in Flint last week, and when I saw, nothing to report about, let me tell you something. It was one of the most depressing things I've ever seen in my life. It was hard for me, honest to God, to believe when I heard what people were experiencing in Flint, to believe that this was taking place in the United States of America in the year 2016. Unbelievable, unacceptable. So we have a proposal. We have a proposal that would invest $1 trillion in rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. Rebuilding the Flint water system, rebuilding water systems all over America, wastewater plants, roads, bridges, our rail system, falling behind other countries, airports, weapons, dams. Everybody knows that our infrastructure is collapsing in many parts of this country. Flint is not alone. Now, question is, everybody agrees, the question is where are we going to get the money? And I'll tell you where we get the money to create 13 million jobs to rebuild our infrastructure. Where we get the money is telling large, profitable corporations, in some cases companies making billions of dollars a year in profit, they are now stashing their profits in the Cayman Islands and in other tax havens. And at the end of a given year, some of these companies pay not 1 penny in federal income tax. They're going to do away with that loophole. They are going to pay their taxes. This campaign is doing extremely well because we are listening to the American people. When we began this campaign, we were 3% in the national polls, 60, 70 points behind Secretary Clinton. We have come a long way in the last 10 years. We won decisive victories in Oklahoma, Colorado, Minnesota, and Vermont. Massachusetts, and if you guys are coming out to vote on Tuesday, is that instead of just listening to billionaire campaign contributors, we are listening as best we can to the American people. And what we are hearing from the American people is that those workers out there who are trying to get by a 9 or 10 bucks an hour, what they are telling us is they can't get by a 9 or 10 bucks an hour. You can't raise a family, you can't pay your own bills and survive on 9 or 10 bucks an hour. So when we think outside outside of the box, when we think outside of status quo thinking, recognize that a federal minimum wage today of $7.25 an hour is a starvation minimum wage. That is why together we're going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour. Listening to folks who get no attention at all from the media, and that is our senior citizens. Senior citizens and disabled veterans all across this country are trying to get by on $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 a year Social Security. And you know what? They can't make it on $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 a year. You just think about it. Think about being 85 years of age, having health care needs, having prescription drug needs, having to heat your home in the winter, having to buy the food you need. You can't do it on $12,000 a year. And then, despite that pain out there, we got Republican candidates for president who said, oh, we should cut Social Security. We should cut benefits to disabled veterans. I've got some bad news for those Republicans. We're not going to cut benefits for seniors and disabled vets. We are going to expand them. And this campaign is listening to women. Sitting in an office making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. That has nothing to do with economics. It has everything to do with sexism. With the women in the fight for pay equity. This campaign is listening to young couples who have little kids. What these parents are telling me is, why is it that when everybody knows the most important years of human development are 0 through 4, why is it that working parents cannot find quality, affordable childcare? That billionaires have received huge tax breaks, but somehow we don't have the money to make sure that our littlest people get the quality care they need. Brothers and sisters in the African American community. criminal justice system. Why in America today, and this is really tragic beyond words, a black male baby born today, if we do not change the system, has a 1 in 4 chance of ending up in jail. And they are tired of seeing unarmed African Americans being shot and killed. We are tired living in fear. We need comprehensive immigration reform. That I go to, I meet with leaders in the Native American community. The very, very sorry and disgraceful history that our government has put upon Native Americans in terms of lies and cheating and treating violations, etc. I was in Hibbing, Minnesota last week, and what I learned from the tribal leaders there, 50% of their kids today dropping out of high school, kids are committing suicide, drug addiction, alcoholism, inadequate health care. Has given us so very much, and it's time we stop turning it back. As you all know, I am running against Secretary Clinton, and she and I have some significant differences. I want to just very briefly discuss some of them. One of the issues that we differ very strongly about is how we raise money for our campaign. So we had a few problems. And what all of the experts and political advisors said, look, Bernie, the only way you can raise the kind of money you need to run a strong national campaign is to create a super PAC and beg Wall Street and billionaires for money. Well, at the end of about 1/10 of 1 second, we rejected that idea. Or the billionaire class, we decided we don't want their money. Something very, very radical. Instead of going to billionaires and Wall Street for money, we asked the American people, it's something extremely extraordinary and unbelievable and unprecedented happened. In the last 10 months, we have now received almost 5 million individual contributions than any candidate in American history has ever received at this point. Contribution is.
Where's your dollar?
$27. Has chosen another path. She has several super PACs, and in the last 5 years, her major super PAC listed $25 million in special interest contributions, $15 million directly from Wall Street. Candidate in history who has received money from Wall Street or the drug companies or the fossil fuel industry, they always say, without fail, doesn't impact me. I'm not affected by all this money. So we have a very simple question. If it doesn't impact you, why in God's name are they giving you $15? Yeah! They're fraudulent, they're reckless, but you know what they are not? They're not dumb. And they don't spend money willy-nilly. Second point, Secretary Clinton has received $225,000 a speech from Goldman Sachs.
Release the transcripts!
Now it seems to me that if you're going to get $225,000 for one speech, it must be a really fantastic speech. So I think that given it is such a fantastic speech, she probably wants to share that speech. Significant differences of opinion. When we talk about why the middle class of America is disappearing, why it is that millions of people today are working in jobs earning less money than they did 20 or 30 years ago, one of the major factors is our disastrous trade policy. It is virtually never talked about on television at all. Very rarely talked about in the media. But it is of huge consequence for the working people of this country. Let me give you an example of what I mean. Since 2001 in America, we have lost 60,000 factories and millions of good-paying jobs. There was a time in America where you had a high school degree, some college, you could get a job in a factory. Not necessarily the greatest job in the world, but if you had a union behind you, you can make middle-class wages, you got good health care, you got good retirement. Yeah! Benefited from a strong manufacturing sector more than the state of Michigan. I don't know how many of you know this, but I just learned this the other day, and I'm really shocked to know this. Did you all know that in 1960, 56 years ago, Detroit, Michigan was considered one of the wealthiest cities in America. Today, Detroit is one of the poorest big cities in America. 60 years ago, Flint, Michigan was one of the prosperous cities in America. Today, needless to say, the poverty rate is off the charts. Now, why is that? What happened? Well, one of the major reasons is that as a result of disastrous trade policies in this country, corporations said, why do I want to pay a worker in Detroit or Flint or any city in America decent wages with decent benefits when I can move to Mexico, move to China, move to Vietnam, and pay workers there pennies an hour? And that is what they did. They shut down tens of thousands of factories, threw millions of workers out on the street. Now you're looking at a former congressman and a United States Senator who not only voted against NAFTA and CAFTA and permanent global trade agreements because I do not think it is right to have American workers forced to compete against people who are making 50 cents or $1 an hour. That was supported almost all of these disastrous trade agreements.
Whoa!
She supported NAFTA and PNTR with China, PNTR with Vietnam, the Chile Free Trade Agreement, the Colombia Free Trade Agreement, the Korean Free Trade Agreement. All of these trade agreements together have cost us millions of decent paying jobs, led to the deindustrialization of America and the decline of the American middle class. And it is not just the loss of jobs that resulted from these trade agreements. I'll tell you what else happened. Right now, in manufacturing plants in Michigan, many of the new jobs that are being created are paying substantially less than the older jobs. Because companies are saying, if you do not pay, if you do not accept these low wages, we're going to move to China or Mexico. This is the race to the bottom, and this is something that if elected president, we are going to radically change. Not simply trade agreements that make huge profits for multinational corporations.
I'll
tell you another very fundamental disagreement between the Secretary and myself. Foreign policy is one of the important tasks that any president has. In 2002, I listened very closely to what President Bush, Dick Cheney, and Don Rumsfeld, all those guys. What they had to say about the need to go into Iraq. I didn't believe them. I voted against that war. Secretary Clinton voted for that war. That war was the worst foreign policy mistake in the modern history of America. Massive instability in the region. It led to the evolution of Al-Qaeda and ISIS. We are paying the price today for that disastrous decision. Also, I was very amazed that in a recent debate with the Secretary, she mentioned that Henry Kissinger had praised her.
Whoa!
I do not want Henry Kissinger that ever praised me. Secretaries of State in the history of our country. Many of my Republican colleagues are running around the country now talking about family values. They just love families. I want everybody here to know exactly what they mean by family values. What they mean is that no woman in this room, in the state, in this country, should have the right to control her own body. Our gay brothers and sisters should not have the right to get married. Should defund Planned Parenthood. When I talk about family values, I've been married for 27 years, got 4 great kids, 7 years. My life, what I talk about is ending the international embarrassment of the United States being the only major country on earth that does not provide paid family and medical. We're not only the only country of major wealthy nations, almost all poor countries understand that when a woman has a baby, she should not be forced to separate herself from the baby at the end of 1 or 2 weeks to have to go back to work. Together, we are going to pass legislation now in Congress, 3 months paid family leave. Talk about a corrupt campaign finance system and a rigged economy and a broken criminal justice system. All of that can be summarized in a very brief story I want to tell you. About a month ago, Goldman Sachs, one of the financial institutions on Wall Street responsible for the destruction of our economy 9 or 10 years ago, they reached a settlement with the federal government for $5 billion. Other banks also reached settlements for even larger sums of money. They reached an agreement for $5 billion because they were selling fraudulent and worthless packages of subprime mortgage loans.
Whoa!
So when you step back and you say, wait a second, Wall Street is one of the most powerful institutions in America. And all of these guys, virtually all of the major banks, have reached settlements acknowledging that they are fraudulent institutions. The major financial institutions, most powerful financial institutions in the world, basically acknowledge it. Where our business model is fraud. That's point number 1. That's a very profound point. Point number 2, we talk about political power. All of these Wall Street firms in corporate America make huge campaign contributions, millions and millions of dollars. So they work with politicians like, okay, we're going to give you a lot of money in your super PAC. You know what you have to do for me. Thirdly, you all know what the revolving door in Washington is about? What it is about is people going from Wall Street or corporate America into government at the highest levels and then going back to corporate America and Wall Street. In other words, they do bidding of the big money interest in Congress, in government. Now, Goldman Sachs itself, that one financial institution, has provided 2 secretaries of the Treasury in the last 25 years, one under the Democratic administration, one under the Republican administration. Fourth, that's political power. You can place your people as Secretary of Treasury and in other high-ranking government positions. That's political power. Fourth, and maybe the issue that most upsets the American people, and that is if some kid in Michigan or Vermont today gets picked up for possession of marijuana, that kid will have a police record for his or her entire life. That is no joking matter. Because if you go out and try to get a job and you have a police record, you know what? It may not be so easy. Now, on the other hand, if you are an executive on Wall Street who has committed illegal acts that destroyed the economy, that resulted in millions of people losing their jobs, their homes, and their life savings, you know what happens to you?
Nothing!
I'm not quite sure. You get an increase in your salary. What we grew up believing is something enormously important, and that is equal justice under the law. That's a very deep and profound statement about who we are as a people. What it says: if you're poor, you break the law, you pay the price. Middle class, you break the law, you pay the price. If you are rich, you break the law, you pay the price.
Yeah!
Clearly, that is not what is going on now. So together, one of our missions is to restore justice to a broken criminal justice system. Senate of the Committee on the Environment and another committee on energy. I have talked to scientists all over our country and all over the world. And what I can tell you is the debate is over. Climate change is real. In this country and around the world. And what I can also tell you is what the scientists are telling us is if we do not get our act together very quickly, and we do not transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy, there will be more drought, more floods, more extreme weather disturbances, more acidification and destruction of our oceans, more rising sea levels and flooding of coastal areas. And there will be more international conflict. As people struggle and fight over limited natural resources, water and land to grow their crops.
Let's go! Yeah, go!
A moral responsibility as adults, as people who are concerned about the generations that come after us, to stand up to the fossil fuel industry and tell them that the future of this planet is more important than their short-term profits. Something you There's a lot that I'm seeing to do here. How does it happen? I want you again to think about it for a second. And not to be glib, just to think about it. How does it happen that not one Republican candidate for president agrees with the scientists regarding climate change? The answer is it gets back to a corrupt campaign finance system.
Yeah.
Some Republicans stood before you tomorrow night, next week, and said, you know, I've talked to the scientists, I've read the literature, we got a serious problem, we got to do something about it. On that day, that candidate would lose his funding from the fossil fuel industry, the Koch brothers, and all of the rest. That is what corrupt campaign finance system is about. Now, I have been criticized for, again, thinking too big. America can't really do this. Yeah, other countries can do it, but we're not smart enough. We're not courageous. I don't know what it is, but somehow we can't do what other countries are doing. Let me give you one example. I've been criticized for saying that every major country on earth, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Holland, Scandinavia, Italy, Canada, our neighbors to the north, they all provide health care to all of their people. How does it happen? And this is what we've got to think about. How does it happen that every other major country on earth provides health care for all of their people, and we do not? Now, I'm a member of the committee that helped write the Affordable Care Act. It has done a lot of good things. It has done away with this obscenity called pre-existing conditions. It has provided health insurance for some 17 million people who are uninsured. Against women in terms of the price they pay for their premiums because they're women. But despite the good gains of the ACA, 29 million people today have no health insurance. Millions of Americans and people in this room are underinsured with high deductibles and bill payments. And we pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. In fact, it is fair to say that the drug companies are ripping us off and ripping us off. After all of that, we end up paying far, far more per capita for health care than do the people around the world. We pay almost 3 times more than the British, 50% more than the French, and a lot more than the Canadians. In my view, given that reality, we have got to summon up the courage to take on the drug companies, take on the private insurance companies, and move to a Medicare for all. For a moment, think about what that will mean to people in this country. It means that you don't have to stay on a job you don't like because they provide decent health care. It means that if you are a small, struggling small business, you don't have to spend half your life figuring out how you can provide health insurance to your family. By many thousands of dollars a year, lower health care costs for the average middle-class family. Now, one of the arguments made against my candidate see is that people say, well, Bernie's a nice guy, but he's just not electable. I agree. And here are all the facts. If you look at some of the polling that's out there where they have matchups between Sanders and Trump, turns out that on most of these matchups, we beat Trump and we beat him pretty badly. Ahead of Trump, 8 points, that's good. We were ahead by 12 points. Not true for many national polls and state polls as well. But here is the real reason that we will defeat Donald Trump. We will defeat Trump because the American people do not want a president who insults Mexicans, who insults Muslims, one of the largest religions. Who insults women. Donald Trump was one of the leaders in the so-called birther movement. And what that was about is, and that was a really profound and ugly thing, what it was about was trying to delegitimize the President of the United States. Now, it's a funny thing. Obama's father was born in Kenya. My father was born in Poland. You know, it's interesting. Nobody has ever asked me for my birth certificate. Do you think it might have something to do with the color of my skin? Donald Trump. Because the American people understand that coming together and supporting each other trumps divisiveness. Because the American people understand that community and the need to help each other trumps selfishness. Profoundly, the vast majority of the American people, no matter what our race, our religion, where we come from, understand that love trumps hatred. Great state of Michigan is going to have a very, very important primary. We will win if there is a large voter turnout.
Just FYI, people, my phone's gonna die any minute.
On Tuesday, let us practice democracy. Let us come out and vote. Bring your friends, your neighbors, your family. Let's win.
Have it. Thanks for watching.